Alright, so now we're recording again.
So it's 2017, and this is the first podcast that we meant to record in 2017.
That means a lot.
It does, because we put off
Lots of things.
that dirty man that we're not going to talk about anymore.
Are you talking about my... No, never mind.
I'm just mad you didn't go on a worse Kincaid diatribe.
That's, I could diatribe here if it'll make you feel better about the French. Hi, I'm Katie Gibbs.
I'm Vanessa Van Alstyne.
This is ArtIswear, and today we're talking about...
Louise Bourgeois.
Which means I get to use all my fun French pronunciations.
She has a minor in French.
Je suis désolée.
Which is, you know, if you're going for an art history major, especially if you're eventually going to get your PhD, you're going to have to speak two languages, and
right.
They're going to have to relate to your major.
Unfortunately...
And I mean two languages aside from your native language.
Right. The art history department at the school I went to emphasized German or French, not taking into consideration that some people in the, sweet, sweet state of Texas might want to speak that Spanish so they can do that pre-Columbian type art.
Well, to be fair, the school you went to, their most prominent program is music, and especially when you're talking about opera, you need to speak French or German. Spanish is...
Or Italian.
Or Italian, but they tend to emphasize French, German, and...
I know that the French, German, and French, Spanish, and Italian are all romantic languages, so they have a lot of cognates and a lot of tie-ins.
The joke is that Italian is Spanish spoken really slowly.
The other thing is that Portuguese is actually like Spanish and French kind of had a bastard baby.
Mm-hmm. Well, English is like German and French had a bastard baby.
Yeah, with a lot of weird... Anywho.
And then did you know that Romanian's a romantic language, just as an aside?
I didn't know that.
It's very close to Italian, apparently.
I very much want to learn it now.
Neighbors, so that makes sense, but yeah.
That sounds really awesome. But, I'm gonna go ahead and throw a warning out here. This is maybe a not safe for young kids...
Artist.
There's a lot of art of a sexual nature, and by a lot of, I mean all of her art
of her work is, pretty much. And I feel like we give that warning a lot. This is hard in art, because a lot of it's about the human condition, and sexuality is very much part of the human condition. And the people that don't feel that way, I'm sorry, you're delusional.
Well, and it's part about breaking down boundaries and breaking down those boundaries of how you feel about the human body.
Or yourself, which yourself is a sexual being.
Nuh-uh, my babies came from thin air and cabbage leaves.
I keep telling your daughter that I'm actually her father, and she's just not buying it.
I keep telling her that I'm her father, and she doesn't buy it either, so...
I want to know how that worked.
Well, it also works because she'll say things like, that's silly. And I'll be like, your mom is silly. And it really took her 2 weeks to catch on to the fact that when I say your mom jokes, I'm talking about me. This is the same girl that's in Honor Society. That she's so blonde sometimes.
We can cut this if you don't want this on the air, but I'm still waiting for her to do the math on when you were married versus when she was born.
She kind of did once in the car when all of us were in the car, me, my husband, little man, and her. And she started adding things up, and then the good thing is she's so blonde that she's easily distracted. That I was just, I don't even remember. She wasn't into Pokemon. It was whatever Claptrap she was in at the time. And I was like, look, something shiny from Claptrap, blah. And she was like, oh yeah. And then completely gone. There goes the thought. I know where she gets it from. It's from me. She comes by it honestly.
I'm like 50-50 at some point. I'm going to get a text about this. Like, hey, my parents were married in March and I was born in August. Yeah.
Surprise!
Finally figured that out, huh, kid? I told her to call me when she needs bail at some point. I love that I've said this to a 9-year-old. I'm going to hell.
Sorry, my dog Kaylee's in here.
She's adorable. She looks like a giant wishbone.
Yeah, she's like a Jack Russell Terrier if they were longer and taller and had very
Like 40
long
pounds.
greyhound legs. Stop it, baby girl. You are not that itchy.
So, one thing I was going to mention, you know how we talked about the ghost ships, or the ghost ship warehouse fire? Apparently, to do the world a favor, the alt-right on 4chan has taken upon themselves to call all of the DIY spaces fire departments and report them as fire hazards. This has gotten a music studio that has gone out of their way in Fort Worth to be shut down. They've gone out of their way to get fire inspections and try to keep it up to date with the limited funds that they had. But over 96 calls to the fire department and multiple complaints kind of got the city to go, yeah, you need to do $10,000 worth of repairs. Sorry.
Oh my god.
And it's crippled the space. They're probably gone.
That's heartbreaking.
But the reason 4chan is doing this supposedly, and this is from my leftist news sources, so get on your Rush Limbaugh and get all conspiracy theory. They're doing it to shut down, quote, leftist hotbeds. Hotbeds of leftist thought. And I will never argue with you that the art world is very, very, very leftist.
The leftists can have conspiracy theories just as much as the right wing. They can be just as militant when they want to be about whatever they feel strongly about. So
I've heard people talk about Republican re-education camps before, and I'm like, no, that's not cool. That's still fascism.
Nope.
That's not. You're a little more middle of the road, you psycho. But, you know, this is lame, guys.
This is not the way to fix it. This is just the way for them to be more, to find scarier, more hidden spaces that they're going to...
Have you not learned your lesson with the drug war? When you make things illegal that people are going to do anyways, it just becomes scarier.
They're gonna find more hidden venues. They're gonna it's the same when they banned abortions, and then people got back alley abortions, and then started dying because some quack doctor with a degree and a coat hanger.
Oh, you were lucky if it was even a doctor.
Yeah, well, doctor in air quotes.
Yeah, air quotes. You can't see your air quotes, Katie.
Well, they should. They should be in my living room right now.
That would fit about all 10 of our listeners.
Hi, guys!
No, we have more listeners than that.
12?
Yeah, we're doing real good.
Hey, guys! All 12 of you. Y'all can come over and we'll have a ArtIswear gathering and we'll just talk about stuff and I'll tell you all about my hatred of Thomas Kincaid.
Okay, calm down. I'm scared now. Okay, so Louise Bourgeois. How do you really say that?
Bourgeois, you have it.
I have it.
It's similar to the bourgeoisie.
Bourgeoisie?
Bourgeoisie.
Bourgeoisie, okay.
Yeah. Je suis.
You know my love-hate with R's.
So, anecdote before we start. Vanessa's from West Texas.
Yeah, Midland, Texas.
Originally, and they apparently throw R's in places they don't belong.
And then take them out of places they do.
So when she used to be able to drink, she used to call me when she was drunk and I was not there and tell me, Katie, I got the alcohol.
Yeah. Alcohol has an R in it, I swear.
That's my dad, who is from Deep South Alabama and thankfully moved out, is from, says washer. There's
oh yeah, you're gonna wash.
You gonna wash your clothes? Let's go wash some clothes. It's usually related to clothes.
Like you gotta dig up them tree roots.
Yeah. I want to get my oil changed.
Yeah.
It's like UUL. It's
what
not
you doing
like
that for?
OI.
What you doing that for?
Yeah. Fixing to.
Got lists. Yeah, fixing to do things.
Yeah, which is a Texas thing. I'm going to go ahead and own that I'm fixing to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's like when my Michigander husband got here and we drove past Weatherford, Texas. Weatherford.
It's
Weatherford.
No, it's Weatherford.
No, it's Ford.
I know, but it's Weatherford.
Yeah, but we say Ford.
So the true mark of a Texan, everybody who's outside of the state of Texas in the United States, there is a county in Texas, and you spell this county Bexar. How do you say it?
Bear.
It is Bexar County.
It's San Antonio is in
Bexar County, which is spelled Bexar.
The other...
It is not Bexar.
The other outside of Texas test is Waxahachie.
Yeah.
If they say Waxahachie, we know you're not native.
No.
You are not native.
So, this has been the linguistics episode of Art I Swear. Sorry guys, diatribe day.
Also, we are going to refer to Louise Bourgeois as Louise because bourgeois is clumsy.
It gets fancy pants after a while. So I find that French, the difference between French and German when you're speaking is that they both have that back of the throat up into your nasal cavity kind of sounds to them, but the French are always more posh and aristocratic and very hoity-toity about it, and the Germans are just angry. When you're saying I love you in German, it sounds like you're cussing them out. So,
which is also kind of hot, but that's a whole other podcast.
That's, I think I need to start a new podcast on that. I'm going to need a minute.
By the way, one of the reasons I chose to do her in our Nestor podcast, we talk about a piece that'll cover here. It's a staircase piece. Also, I want to promote an upcoming podcast that, at the time of recording, we haven't recorded yet, but look out for it. Me and some friends, Katie's going to be on it sometimes, have decided to do a podcast called The Phantom of the Podcast. I left the D off, and you can check it out, phantompodcast.com. I have to get up 3 podcasts before it goes on iTunes, but as soon as it can, it'll be on every major podcast syndication. We are going to start with the 1911 book and cover all of the media we can find on the Phantom of the Opera and contrast and compare and consume it.
Correct.
So it's going to be less serious than this one, but I think it'll be a lot of fun.
And we'll throw another plug in at the end, so you don't have to, pull your pens out right now and try to remember everything we're about to say, because now it is seriously time to introduce you to Louise Bourgeois.
Yeah, Vanessa's dumb and forgets things, and she has to bring it up when she thinks of it. So, there are questions I get about contemporary and modern art that leap out a lot, and so that's how I sometimes kind of pick podcasts. And independent of this podcast, I've had a lot of people ask me about the giant spider statues, because they either scared the crap out of people or really stuck with them, because I feel like spiders, and I say this as a snake owner, some creatures we have this intrinsic fear of.
They're ooky.
And Louise Bourgeois is the artist who's made the giant public works spiders.
Which are ooky.
Louise Bourgeois also has a lot in common with Louise Nevelson. Bourgeois was born in 1911. Very early in her life, she comes to New York. She was
born in Paris.
She was born in Paris. She's not as young as Nevelson was when she came to America. And Nevelson, I believe, went to Maine first. But they're both immigrants. Having a family kind of puts this pause in there, and they kind of have to choose to go beyond that to become artists. And they don't gain fame until much later in their lives.
Right.
Because if you think about 1911, that's around when Jackson Pollock was born. So like Nevelson, Bourgeois should be a peer of Jackson Pollock, or maybe Robert Rauschenberg, who's a little bit younger, but ends up being a peer of people later, in the 70s and 80s and 90s and she lives to be almost 100.
Right. So she was born in 1911 on Christmas, and she died May 31st, 2010.
So she was 98 and a half.
Yeah. No, well, she was 99. She would have been... No, you're right, 98 and a half.
Yeah.
Math.
I mathed this earlier so I could math good when the podcast came up.
I'm really good with abstract math and really terrible with adding and subtracting.
There's some things my dyslexia affects worse than others, and it's anything written, so numbers are just a jumble for me. It's really bad with numbers. So, ironically, Bourgeois was born into a middle-class family, which we mentioned.
Right.
Bourgeois it has roots in the French word for middle class, and the middle class are people who...
The bourgeoisie.
Yeah, they have the ability to, save and kind of create a future. I don't feel like this exists anymore.
The division between the middle class and the upper class is growing further and further apart, especially in America. I haven't experienced the living conditions in Europe ever.
I wouldn't mind. Feel free to fly us out.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
By the way, Lithuania and the Netherlands, shout out. Y'all listen to us a lot.
Hey guys.
Lithuania, really.
That's, email us and let us know how it's going out there.
I think maybe they're confused by my Dutch last name. No, I'm kidding.
I'm confused by your Dutch last name, but maybe I'm just confused by you.
I'm descended from the original colonizing to Dutch to New York. That's
all I can think of is the Blazing Saddles quote, well, my grandmother was a Dutch.
Oh, well.
You're welcome.
My grandmother was, like, off the boat Irish and crazy. Actually, they're both crazy. So whatever. And then there's the adoptive one who's...
You said Irish, and then you said, and crazy. It's implied when you say Irish.
Was half German, and my living adoptive grandmother is all German. There's nothing else to that woman. So, Louise Bourgeois' family restored medieval and Renaissance tapestries, and they made a pretty good living at it. They had a country estate where they would, like, get them and work on the bulk of them, and then a resell and dealership in Paris.
Right. And they made good money, and they were always kind of artsy.
Mm-hmm. And this reminded me a lot of the background for Pablo Picasso, who we need to do a podcast on, but I feel like if you really want to watch a documentary on Picasso, those are easily available.
So we need to find a different angle?
Picasso was taught to paint by his artist father. Bourgeois learns to draw and think spatially about art from reconstructing these tapestries. Very early on, they taught her how to draw, and she was good at it. And she made a comment about how she mostly drew dismembered arms and legs, because that's what tended to get lopped off for some reason. I guess because it's closer to the edge, and that's where it's more likely to fray. And this influences her art.
Right, because the deconstruction of the human body, and then you can see it very much in her work.
This also means her parents are okay with her going into the arts, but like a lot of people in their age range and income level for the time have reservations due to sensibility.
Because she's a female in the arts.
And modern art, if you think it's controversial now, it was way more so back then.
It was extremely shocking.
And people were more educated about the arts in general back in the day, which is weird because I'll tell you right now, the high school education you're getting now is very different
from what you would have gotten back then.
Yeah, like you're more educated in general. I would
hazard to say yes, but your art education is so poor.
Yeah,
it's so poor.
I mean, but we can't sacrifice football. This is Texas. That's important. We need to cripple and mentally stun our young men.
Bourgeois.
Anyways, I'm from West Texas. I have a lot of rage about football. I'm going to cry. So, I will bring this up. Having gone to art school, I always feel like such a douche when I say that. A lot of women make artwork about their daddy issues. It's kind of a cliche. It can be done very well. And some of this is in the 70s when women start to emerge as legitimate artists. Note, this is the 1970s, 40 years ago. A lot of women are tearing down their fathers as a symbol of the patriarchy and the old mode of masculine emphasized thinking that they want to see redefined and recontextualized so that women have more power and more say in society.
So they're taking the male figure that's in their life, the dominant male figure in their life, and they're using that as the symbol for the overarching patriarchy, which continues to this day.
It continues to this day. It's sometimes done very well. It's sometimes very, like, trite and annoying. It's kind of like, not to diss on my fellow women, but I know so many female artists that have a child, and oh my god, all my artwork's about having had a baby, and maybe I don't get it because I've never had children, but 90% of the time, I have to, like, chew on the inside of my mouth, not to be like, okay, and this glorious pastel-colored newborn bullshit is interesting because...
Well, I can appreciate that, especially in the prehistoric times, they worshipped the female body because of its reproductive purposes, i.e. the Venus of Willendorf.
Mm-hmm.
So it did have that mystical reproductive property then, but it is and God, I'm gonna go off on a diatribe. I can feel it bubbling. The mentality now in the 1990s and the 2000s towards parenting has shifted. This huge paradigm between, you have your separate personality in between yourself and your child, and now it's shifted into my child is what I am. And that's so unhealthy on so many levels. We were kind of discussing this earlier, and it's heartbreaking to see. I mean, I love my children. I would do anything for my children, and don't let me ever say that I don't love it. But they're not all that I am. I am a separate being from them, and they are healthier for it, and I am healthier for it.
Well, and this ties back into Bourgeois' work, because a lot of her work comes from her relationship with her father, and it's an exploration of who she was and how he shaped her and tearing that down, but also there's that sensibility that comes that you really only understand as an adult when you have this, like, gestalt moment where you look at your parents...
and realize they're human.
You realize they're human, that they have this life before you, they have had this life after you, and while you might witness the end of it, you were just a part of it. And I've had this conversation with my husband a lot, because he lost his mother when he was 11, and so he retains this childish understanding of who his mother was.
Right.
And I'm not saying that he's childish. I'm saying that understanding never had that moment, that aha of my mother's just human.
Right. He was never allowed that moment of maturity to look back on it. I didn't find out about my dad's first marriage, I think, until I was 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
It just was never spoken of.
Yeah, and 11's like, you're kind of getting to that point. For me, it really started hitting in my 20s, but to say my relationship with my parents was stunted and healthy is perhaps an understatement. Meep, meep.
So, Bourgeois.
So that wasn't just a random diatribe. It ties in. Oh my God. So she actually, her dad wanted a son. Isn't that true? Yeah. He wanted a son. His name was Louis.
Right.
Louis. We would say Louis.
Yeah, he wanted to name his son Louis, but Louise came out with girl parts.
And he later has a son, but in the long run, she's his favorite.
Right.
And I think it's because she's very independent and very intelligent and thoughtful and goes on to have this life despite everybody else. And that's not right away she matures into this. Now, the issues with Dad that pop up is that he had a mistress and it was her tutor. Now, I'm not sure if he was sleeping with the tutor before he became Louise's tutor. Or after.
Was the mistress...
The mistress was female.
Okay.
And according to Katie, it's not weird for Frenchmen to have a mistress during this period.
It's still not... The French have a very different understanding of monogamy. There's the hour between 5 and 7 in the evening is usually like right when you get off work, you go visit your mistress, or you go visit, it's like the cheating hour almost, where you go out and then you come home to your family and everybody's cool. Like they just don't see cheating the same way that we see cheating in America, where it's like this thing that breaks up marriages and like ruins your entire life and destroys your self-worth and everything else. They just realize that,
But what is fragrant off about this relationship is that the mistress is not supposed to interact with the family.
Right. The mistress is in the household. directly
and that's weird.
living there.
That is weird.
That is awkward because you still have the wife and then you have the mistress. That's more of a polyamory sort of relationship.
And it sounds like his wife wasn't really cool with it, and he even kind of like jilts her for the mistress in the long run. And the mistress was English, which is a whole other kettle of historical fish, because who fights like the French and the British?
Oh, I know. Oh, it's not part of this podcast. Keep going.
The Greeks and the Turks. Anyways.
Istanbul is Constantinople.
Oh god, that earworm's gonna be... That's how you, like, win an earworm contest, is you just...
Bring up They Might Be Giants?
No, you just say Istanbul, Constantinople, and walk out of the room. I also want to bring up the Jungian theory that to mature as a child, you have to kill or dismember your parents. This was a common psychological concept from the early part of the 20th century. Jung kind of emerges at the same time as Freud. I think he was taught by Freud, but this is like 20 years age different versus like 40 or 60. And this Louise Bourgeois, if you haven't gathered at this point, dismemberment and the tearing apart of things and reconsidering them, it becomes very important to her artwork. Now, she does go to art school. She actually goes to the Sorbonne eventually, which is... Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did good.
I do hear these French words. It's just if I've never seen it before, I don't know what I'm doing.
You did fine. I'm in almost no position to
criticize.
Because I am in Texas and I learned French, so I can read it quite well, and I can write it quite well. But when we get to the speaking parts, I don't hear people speak it enough, so I'm very intimidated to try to speak frog. So, but I know how to pronounce it, and unfortunately my mistake taking my minor was that I took a French linguistics course as one of my last French courses. So it destroyed my vocabulary bank, but I can pronounce everything beautifully when I'm thinking about it.
So I brought up the Sorbonne before, though.
Right.
This is a predominant art school in Paris, while Paris is still the capital of Europe, or the capital of the art world.
Right.
Paris is not the capital of Europe. Oh my god.
Only in fashion and attitude.
They probably... Yeah, I was going to say, they probably think they are. While Paris is still considered the capital of the art world before it shifts over to New York City, and this is very American art history, that's where you want to go to school.
Right.
And this is where all of the modern freak shows that are not the Bauhaus are. And her daddy did not like the modern artists, so there's a fight here.
Right. Because modern art was very scandalous.
Mm-hmm. You like cutting people up, and we don't quite get it, and that's pretty much like a lot of the world. I'm not even going to say it's just an American problem.
Well, and a lot of his art, too. I mean, think about it. He's restoring tapestries and medieval works. So he is rooted in this ancient tradition. And she's trying to push for this extremely new style and trying to push boundaries and trying to break out of the box and push forward. And I can imagine that created some tension.
But this is where I love Louise Bourgeois. She is in the, this is once again kind of like a classic art school thing. Mommy and Daddy, I'm going to be an artist. We're not paying for that. Instead of, oh, okay, it's, well, I'm going to get a job and pay for it myself as a translator. She worked as a translator for the American students at the Sorbonne, and that covered her tuition.
Nice.
So she got her education come hell or high water, and she ends up becoming a printmaker who reproduces things like Picasso and has a little shop next to her dad. When he sees that she wants to be an entrepreneur with this, he's once again supportive. And in 1938, an American walks in named Robert Goldwater. Robert Goldwater is one of the early writers on the influence of the primitive on modern art. That's an aside. I hate the word primitive.
Both of us grimace when we hear it. We turn into the angry purple blob from McDonald's. It's quite hilarious.
Grimace!
Oh, grimace.
So this is a quote from her. In between talks about surrealism and the latest trends, we got married.
Oh.
So this is this intellectual relationship. He takes her to the USA. She becomes a citizen in 1955, and she considers herself an American. And she actually, when people say as a French artist, she's like, no, I am an American.
I want to be an American idiot.
And I mean, if you think about it, she went in 1938 when she's about 27. That's a quarter of her life, maybe. Right. So, and she did go back to Paris, but, whatever. But also you're thinking about World War I, and you're thinking about the interim between 1 and 2, and I can see that she would much rather be American than French. And I mean, if she'd have stayed in France in the 40s, she would have been dead. Yeah, a woman in Paris after the Nazis invaded who was reproducing modern art very well might not have survived. Oh no, she would have been... that is an option. She might have been her family was wealthy enough that she might have made it out, but that's all just speculation. But the point of it is... So she's married to this prominent art historian. She's in New York City, but she's in New York City in the 40s and 50s, and this is Peggy Guggenheim's New York City with the, big, thrusting, manly boys club of abstract expressionism. You got Jackson Pollock, you got Robert Rauschenberg, who's oddly gay, but whatever. Still boys club. Not oddly gay, just gay. He was gay. I'm just saying, it doesn't fit into the stereotype. Standard. Yeah. But, so she's starting her life as a married woman. So guess what happens? She gets pregnant and has babies. She didn't actually think she could have babies. So they adopted a kid from France, and then she has, 2 boys. So it's 3 boys. God bless her. Oh, goodness. And this is before tranquilizer darts, right? Yeah, I feel like the modern version of tranquilizer darts are Benadryl, as my mother raised me, tablets, and smartphones. My son refuses to take liquid medicine. At all. It involves 2 people and a towel. I've seen this. And a lot of patience. It's like how I give reptiles medicine. And so Benadryl doesn't work because it's like an immediate ejection system between his tongue and the spewing. My reflexes have actually gotten quite good as a parent. I can catch the falling cup before it falls at 50-50 onto the floor, stuff like that. But man, that kid. That is like slamming medicine into a cranky chameleon with 3 legs. Oh, it's so bad. So, anywho. So, like with Nevelson, her focus shifts to having a family. We've discussed this before. Being a female artist and having a family is extremely difficult. Because I'm not saying it's okay, and I would never say that as a child who's had this happen. It is not okay when daddy walks away, but it's easier. It's easier for daddy to have a career where he makes art. It is not easy to set aside being a mother. Like how Louise Nevelson handled this is she walked away from it. Bourgeois does not do this. She still makes some work. She paints a little bit. She draws a little bit. And she makes these primitive totems out of balsa wood, but it's extremely slow production. And I think part of the reason I mention this effect of motherhood is I cannot think of an instance where a male artist stopped making artwork because he had children. And it's not even like, oh, he had to go get a job. Because she didn't have... They had the means to support themselves. I can tell you artists who walked away from their families. Gauguin was a banker. He abandoned his family to be a painter and eventually go die in Tahiti of syphilis. I mean, if you're going to die of syphilis... Might as well do it. Yeah, I mean, that sounds good. No, even. But, I cannot... But I can think of a lot of women who gave up or... I mean, who knows how many brilliant female artists were out there, that this had to be a sacrifice because
that's the social norm. And I mean, you can even relate this today to the modern working woman, you know.
Yeah.
There's so much stupid pressure on being able to work and have kids and how your choices are bad. Or if you stay home with your kids, then your choices are bad. Or,
well, and as a woman that has existed in the contemporary art world, as of 2017, there is a different sensibility about women that come back from it after having supported and raised a family. And there's less of a stigma for men who come back.
Right. There's always that overlying, what are you doing with your children?
And
why are you out here?
And then there's, well, you could go teach school. And if you're a woman and you go teach school, oh, that's precious, sweetheart. You taught elementary art with the little kiddies. And now you want to make big girl art.
You just do so great with those kids. They are just learning so much.
And this is a bias I've had to struggle with. I'm not just deflecting this all. It's something that I have to, like, chew on and have a conversation with myself because it's so intrinsic into, like, our thought.
And again, we are not denigrating the people who choose to do this. Like, if you want to be an elementary school art teacher, for the love of Pete, go be an elementary school art teacher. If you like kids and you like art and that's your passion, knock yourself out. But it's the fact that it is everybody's standard response when you're a female and you say, I like art and I want to do art for a living, or me as an art historian, I like art history and I want to write papers about how art history has shaped us as a culture, as a nation, as a people. So you want to teach?
Yeah. Well, and then you get judged if you don't have kids.
Exactly.
I've had artists ask me what's going to happen when I start a family, and I'm like, well, I don't plan on having kids. And then there's that, I'm either going to change my mind or I'm going to be unfulfilled.
Right.
And you know what? I have lived a perfectly happy and fulfilled life with no damn kids in it.
I have kids. I have to deal with, you want to do something with your life, but you have kids.
Yeah.
It is, again, that overarching, I guess you are expected to release your individual as a female. You are expected to at some point relinquish your individuality because you have children. You need to start a family. You need to push this.
Well, and it's like Picasso was married how many times and had how many kids, and he never stopped making art to take care of those kids. And if he had and came back, he'd have been a hero. It's a double standard.
Right.
That's what we're going here. And that's
we
why...
can't fix it, and we're not judging it, but we're just pointing that it's out there.
And that's why it's amazing that Bourgeois has a career after this.
Correct.
Her husband and the position she was in New York City, right place, right time, does not hurt. And you can see Goldwater's influence on, like, this 1951 called... It's owned by the MoMA. I don't actually think it has a title, or I didn't write the title down. You can see the influence of primitive art on it. If you think about our 1935 podcast with the Etu Etsa piece from Nigeria, Benton.
Right. It has that dark wood, the exaggerated body structure,
the elongation. The arms are also kind of a stick, kind of a spear. It's very abstract. That's one of the reasons I hate the word primitive art. It's like maybe this culture just chose to express themselves more abstractly instead of going through the history that Greece did. Greece is not the
end all and be all.
Yeah.
What?
And I even want to point out, this is from her obituary. It says then in 1966, the critic Lucy Lippard, who, like so many New Yorkers, had known her effectively as Goldwater's appendage, saw her work and was astonished by it. included it in a show, and it was organized by the Eccentric Abstraction at the Fishbox Gallery. So after the 50s and the 60s, she starts to come into her own. There are some shows she's in that Peggy Guggenheim through. People are aware that she makes art, but this is, oh, that's Goldwater's wife. And she's sweet. She's this real cool girl from Paris. And gosh darn, isn't it sweet that she thinks she can make that girl art? I mean, this was referred to as women's art. It's like how Pollock's wife, Lee Krasner, was as innovative as he was, but she was dismissed because she had a vagina.
Well, and also because she had that overarching lack of... her husband had her... not individuality, but her persona. I mean, her persona was so-and-so's wife.
Yep.
That's,
And that's an easy persona to fall into. So this, one of these radical pieces that breaks through is very, very phallic. It can be displayed, and it was also something that Bourgeois carried around as kind of a performance piece. It looks like a giant uncircumcised penis.
Yep, it's got balls.
Some
got
people
a penis head.
Say that from certain angles, and I've never seen this in person, so I can't speak to that, is that it also kind of looks like a female torso, that the balls can also represent breasts. They're very round, whereas if you've seen actual testicles, they're usually kind of oblong and not this cartoonish. But then
like
neither
it's
are
made out
breasts.
of this metal almost.
Yeah, I think it might be a recast from plaster.
Okay.
Or this might just be plaster. I don't have the materials down.
But it has that kind of like rustedy iron look to it. It's very solid. This thing looks like it's like 2-3 feet long.
So this is where she starts to really work through her like sexual identity, her sexual history emerging from her father's infidelity and also tearing down that masculinity. And how better to do that than by carrying around and displaying
a 3-foot-long dong.
A giant dong. You know what? This is ballsy. Ha ha!
This is a really hard subject to
get
a grasp on.
We're gonna pun this all night if I don't stop it. I'm gonna pun it out of the way. And this is a transition period. If you scroll down, Katie, on my notes, there's a gallery installation view where you can see some of these pieces that are more biomorphic, surrealist referenced, more abstract. They have this like wet tapestry draped quality over
in a 3D sculpture.
But... Yeah, and this is all sculpture, and there's this hint of the human body. There's this hint of the genitals. There's this abstraction of sexuality, and this installation view is very gripping.
And it looks like she just took genitals, and she just took limbs, and she just ripped them off the human body, and it blew them up and exposed them, and then abstracted them. And
I want to say at this point, she avoided talking about her father. And I even think he starts to live with her in New York during some of this, but it's not so much... She talks about him more after his death, I'm sure out of respect for him, but also to avoid that probably... I'm just talking about daddy. It wasn't as much of a cliche at that point, but it's... If you're trying to remove yourself from the masculine art world, maybe you don't want to make it about a man.
Right. Well, and also, I think she's maybe figuring out that she can be an individual, and that she has to break from... maybe she feels she has to break from the masculine, patriarchal overtone of her father, and stuff like that. That might have something to do with it.
I included it on the 60s list, and this is a very brief overview. There's a lot of work we just cannot cover. Like
she was 98 and a half years old. She did so much.
I believe this one said Kummel from 1968. This is my favorite piece of her art, and I will say the wooden base is part of it.
Okay.
There's, as a base, 2 very thick, very large pieces of rough-hewn wood.
Looks almost like train ties.
It's aged.
Yeah, aged train ties. Like, just chunks of a train tie cut down. And then it's this porcelain-like, or porcelain
It's a marble.
cast. Yeah.
It's a marble.
Okay. Drapery effect, but it almost looks like...
It's like
boobs, but without nipples. Or a bunch of penis
zits.
Heads. Right.
Penis head zits. It's a lot of circular shapes with this like draping covering that's almost like peeling back a foreskin.
Right.
Or an eyelid, or the folds of a labia, or
like
what have you.
Those like bras that have just the cutouts in the front, you know, thank you, Mean Girls. But just without the nipple bits.
Yeah, so it's that uncomfortable, vague play on sexuality of the human body,
but there's
broken down.
Several of them grouped together, like there's just a whole mess of them.
It's almost like this nightmare I have where I'm covered in like, I used to have cystotic acne. All of these nightmares where I just have rows of them, and it kind of looks like that.
I used to have nightmares where I had a mustache, like a full-grown, like nice mustache, like I should have freaking waxed it. And
if I don't wax, that's a reality for me. Anyways, and another piece we're going to mention is Destruction of the Father from 1974. This is an installation view that's very similar to Kumel. It's these round kind of polyp shapes that are nestled into fabric, and at the center is this like rough-hewn bumpy thing that kind of references testicles, that kind of references breasts, that's almost like skin tags.
The second picture, without the lighting inside of these almost papier-mâché like objects, almost looks like rounded stalactites and stalagmites, because you have these rounded shapes coming down from the ceiling, you have these rounded shapes coming up from the floor of the installation, but the top one, these objects are all lit from the inside, so they have this
red and pink.
Yeah, it has this human skin tone quality to it.
I'm even going to give some criticism. I love Kumel. I love that delicate handling of marble, her dedication to an old sculpture method in a new way, and the way she combines it with the rough wood so that you really see the contrast. I feel like Destruction of Father is a little too haphazard.
I think so too. I can see where you're going with this, because there's a lot of, in Kumel, there's the play of the organic versus the inorganic, and the geometric shape of the wood, but the organic material versus the organic shape of the marble with the inorganic material. And then the Destruction of the Father it kind of looks like 1960s Roswell to me, almost.
It's kind of art school to me.
Right.
It's like not quite there.
Right.
But you know what? Not everyone's a hit. But that's one they talk about a whole lot, so that's why I included it. I also included a photo of No Exit, all in caps, from 1991 that we covered in the Nestor podcast, which is stairs that are kind of obscured with two round balls in front of them that are yellow. Very obviously testicles and a penis, but you can ascend the penis.
Right.
But there's nowhere to go at the top.
The stairs are made out of steel, it looks like, or along with like this steel, almost cubicle feel enclosure.
And this is the one in the Nestor podcast he talks about. In the back is a door, and you're supposed to open the door and look inside, and it's kind of this like body reference.
Okay.
But most people don't even know it's there.
Yeah.
And that becomes more important in her later work. There's this sense of the hidden and the understated. And that's kind of when she starts to explore her mother more, and her role as a mother more, and her role as a woman aside from her father. And I included an installation piece here called Cell 7 from 1991, so the same time as No Exit, roughly.
And it's got that same cubicle feel to it that No Exit had.
But partition.
Right. It's like, I don't know how many partitions they're using, but it's like 8.
It looks like an octagon.
Yeah. But this one is made out of like barnwood, with there's like barnwood door with the big opening in the door for like a glass panel or something, and you can see in, and it's clothing, but it's old white underclothes, and
the door is painted black, and there's sculptural affectations. There's this one of her spider maquettes for what'll later be her larger sculptures. Looks like a stairwell, which I assume is a reference to Nude Descending a Staircase by Duchamp.
And it's almost like it's like her private life is encompassed in this.
Yes.
Look, I did a thing!
You did a thing. You're getting really good at contemporary art. And And there's this period where she does these installation pieces that are this like kind of private room look.
Okay.
And that's when I first got introduced to her as a young person, because I was a teenager then. And then as a final one, I included one of the giant spider sculptures. This one looks like it's about 2 stories tall. I want to say some of the smaller ones are probably like the 6-7 foot range. And they're titled Maman.
Which is
Mommy!
In French. Do you want to read the quote?
Yeah, she says, "She was my best friend. Like a spider, my mother was a weaver. Spiders are helpful and protective, just like my mother. About her spiders called Maman, French for mother, so they were about mothers in the process of making art."
Like a spider spinning a web. She kind of felt like she was this.
And I imagine with that tapestry tie-in where they were reconstructing ancient medieval, I can see that tie-in.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
But that's one of the criticisms you're going to have there is, does that make sense to the viewer without knowing her backstory? And if that is imperceivable without knowing the backstory, does it apply?
I think it gives you a different perspective, but I think, if I can harken back to our Kincaid for a second, when you look at seeing this in situ, I mean, this is obviously not in a gallery, this is en plein air.
They're usually public works, so
right.
They're out.
This is still something you can interact with, and this is still art. This is still something that, even without the backstory, you can understand that this was created for public consumption. This was to...
And I'll even point out the spider has 9 legs. Most of these that I've seen, they do not have the accurate mammal amount of legs. Arachnid amount of legs. I know this. Jesus Christ. Not a
superstar.
science teacher. Yeah. Who are you? What did you think you are? So it's not even a true spider.
Right.
And the legs it's clumpy, and the center bodies, they're always like, there's no eyes, there's no mouth, it's this like clay-like clump, so it's almost like...
It looks like a young papier-mâché product, almost, but in giant
and there's a lot of
colossal form.
Art from this period that's like, making it monolithic, making it large, recontextualizes it, and causes you to have a different understanding. But once again, how successful that is going to have to be up to you. Her spiders are some of her... It's my least favorite by Bourgeois, probably.
I can see where she's going with it, and I like it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's my favorite either. I do like it, though. Like, I enjoy her work, and I enjoy how she has able to make it so still accessible, but still so cerebral, I guess, in a context.
And apparently she used to like host Just for Women art critiques, and she was brutally honest, so I feel like she'd appreciate brutal honesty about her work.
Right.
Maybe not. Some people can dish it out but can't take it. And the last photo we have is one I found of her.
Absolutely my favorite.
She's wearing, like, a ski mask with the cutout eye holes.
She's got, have you ever seen The Princess Bride? And that mask that Wesley has when he's the Dread Pirate Roberts, where it's just that black mask over his eyes, and he's got the black bandana, so you can't see the top of his head, and you can't, it's kind of covering just the tip of his nose and his eyes. So she looks like Dread Pirate Roberts almost to me.
And she's got a butcher knife that's, like, obviously stuck in the table.
And she's holding on to it, and she looks like, but she's 90-something years old.
Yeah, she's picture. She's so old in this photo.
But she looks like a freaking bandit.
It's like, what are you gonna go do? Are you gonna go rob a drugstore after this, Louise? Is that what?
I'm gonna pop some tags.
I will slap you if you continue to sing that.
Istanbul was Constantinople. But now it's Istanbul. So if you tell a gal to wait for you in Constantinople, she'll be waiting for you in Istanbul.
Hey, fatty boom boom, hit me with the ching ching, dollar alla bling bling. I'm gonna have to play Die Antwoord for Katie now because I don't think she's ever heard that song.
Let's do it after the podcast.
So,
that's Louise Bourgeois.
I would love to go on forever, but this has been damn near an hour.
Yeah, this is a long one.
Mention Phantom of the podcast. Check it out.
Once again, Phantom of the podcast. It might
release in February. We'll keep you posted.
We'll keep you updated. It is a new work. We've got another couple of things cooking that when we start releasing more, we'll tell you when we get closer in.
Exciting business. There is now a great editing company called Merrily Round the Edits, and I have no idea who's running that because it's not me. My spelling is horrible.
I don't know, but they sound really awesome. So if you have anything you'd like edited, anything from college papers all the way up to fiction novels to pretty much anything, you can check out Merrily Round the Edits or email me.
The webpage is merrilyround.com.
Okay. We'll put it up on our website.
And they're Merrily Round the Edits on Facebook. If you want to contact ArtIswear, it's artiswear@gmail.com. Like and share, like and share, like and share.
Tell your friends, amuse your enemies, start the party with a bang. Art, I swear!
Remember, if this takes off, you get to be the hipster that said that you were into it before it was cool.
Oh my god, it's so cool.
Oh, it's so cool.
That's, we'll even provide you some hipster-esque glasses if you share with more than 10 of your friends and they continually listen. I want proof.
I can go to the dollar store and pop the lens out of some glasses. Alright, this has been Art I Swear. I'm Vanessa Van Alstyne.
I'm Katie Gibbs. Make sure you check out Merrily Round the Edits. That's right, I will plug and plug and plug.
Art I Swear would like to thank Joe Giggs. If you're looking for a giant spider of a DJ, not kidding, or just kidding, he's really not a giant spider. This is not a Cronenberg film. Joe Giggs, for your DJ needs. Our podcast is produced by Jillian Gomez, who works with Sybil Press and the Flying Buttresses.
And the Pincers. It's the Harry Potter reference that you needed.
I've never seen Harry Potter. You know this! Art I Swear would also like to thank Iridile's Conant Project for the samples. Shut up, Katie. Have a creative day.
And the Pincers, goodbye!